There's been recent statements coming out regarding the health of Paul George, namely, and also, in that same breath, a scary update regarding Embiid's knee that he's been dealing with this whole season.
Sixers GM Daryl Morey this week said the organization is hopeful that there will come a time that the knee isn't an issue anymore, and Embiid said he believes that will be the case. But he said he thinks it will likely take another surgery and a long recovery period, something he didn't have after the initial injury last February.
He's had multiple different little nagging injuries that have come up. Most recently, he's had tendon damage in his left pinky that he's been fighting. Ouch. He's been doing everything that he can to be on the court, though, and to try to be available. I'm told it's to the point where he has gotten injections to play and compete over the last 4 or 5 games. Now, that's something that players do come playoff time, not necessarily in the regular season.
So you're probably clicking on this video and like, how are you going to call these cutie patooties losers? I mean, these guys, they're fighting for injuries. They're just playing their damn hardest. Like, how dare you be so insensitive about that? And believe me, okay, I'm going to lay out the case in this video. Why you shouldn't really feel bad for these guys, other than the fact that they're obviously going for injuries. That sucks, obviously. But again, these are some of the most tone-deaf, least self-aware, and quite frankly, the biggest losers we've seen in the NBA sphere this year.
You as the de facto 5 in one of the lineups in the fourth quarter, I guess. For you, what is that like when you're not used to playing that position?
Yeah, I mean, it's different. I'm used to scrapping and running around and chasing and fighting through screens, and, you know, to be honest, I'm bored, you know, playing and, you know, on a 5.
He would go on to say that it just doesn't do enough for him. That playing the small ball 5, he was just bored out there, man. Let's just be honest. It's boring being a big.
Bother you, though, at all that they booed you for large stretches of that game? Like after 5 years here, playing your heart out for them, like, does that bother you at all?
I mean, you know, it's stupid. I mean, I was a free agent. You know what I mean? I was a free agent. It wasn't something that I, you know, demanded a trade or, you know, went against the team here. Like, there was the cheers. I appreciate them. Those were the ones that I played hard for. The boos, I didn't get it. I still don't get it when I go to Indy.
Same guy that says, oh, the boos, I think it's stupid. I mean, it wasn't like I demanded a trade from the team. And then proceeds to say he doesn't get why he still gets booed in Indy when he demanded a trade from that same team. Like, what are we doing?
But when I first got to Indy, I wanted to stay there. Like, I grew up on Kobe. So Kobe stayed in LA. That was where his home was. That's how I felt guys should look at it. So after things started to play out, I watched Danny get hurt, Danny struggling, and they just shipped Danny off, knowing Danny was at a critical point in his career where he needed Indy. Like, he needed to be with people he knew to get back healthy. And I saw them just ship him away. So that kind of played a part on me.
Like, bro, this is the same guy from 4 years ago that talked about, hey, I didn't like that, you know, what y'all did to George Hill, what y'all did to Danny Granger. You know, I want to leave. It was known even by the Pacers. Oh, he wanted to go to LA. It was clear he wanted to go to LA, so they traded him to OKC to try to get something back because they knew he was going to be a free agent the following year. And I remember when he got an extension from OKC, he was at the club saying, I'm going to stay here. And then the following year, he ends up leaving, go to LA. You want me to feel bad for this guy? Really? Oh, and you want me to feel bad for Joel Embiid? You know, you want me to feel bad for this guy right here? Are we serious? The first thing we hear from Embiid, I'm not going to play no more back-to-back games. And granted, his knee was swelling, and we saw it. He had a huge brace on. Okay, he was clearly not ready to come back. This very picture that I'm using in this video is from when it was reported that they were out against the Bucks in the season opener. Philly had this winning stretch here, 4 straight. They beat the Lakers, the Cavs. I mean, it looked like they were unstoppable. And over the last 5 games, they've lost 5 straight. Not just that, but a lot of these games, Paul George, Joel Embiid, Maxey, they all played. They're fully healthy. This game in particular against the Raptors, where they played a team in Toronto that is obviously 20 games under 500. Not just that, but they're missing 3 of their starters. And Joel Embiid, he got outplayed by Scott Wayne Barnes.
105-103. Raptors with a 2-point lead, looking for their 5th win. Embiid loses it. Joel Embiid loses it.
He got booed by the fans. Look at this thing. But I mean, I'm still hurt. I'm still going through, the regular injuries that I've sustained in the regular season. Boss, I know you lost the game, but you had 27 and 12 and 4. I thought this is a good game. I thought Embiid's back. Embiid's back. Look, he's got 27. Nobody's moved by these 27-point games. He had 30 plus in one game against the Bulls. I remember that game. You think I'm moved by these games? You think anybody cares that he's got 30 in one game? This guy looks bad. He doesn't look good on defense at all. And his teammate Paul George looks even worse. So yesterday, or at the very least the day before I recorded this video, which is on the 13th, right? The Sixers played, let's see here, the Brooklyn Nets. Quentin Grimes ends up being the leading scorer for the Sixers. That's cool. They ended up losing this game, yada, yada, yada. Okay, let's see what Paul George put up. 1 for 7. 2 points? What? Paul Clifton, Anthony George put up how many points in the game? 2? Dos? Deux? If you look at PG now, he's basically reverted. Wow, I can't speak English now. He's basically been reverted into a movement shooter. The same movement shooting role that he despised being under Doc Rivers in the bubble. And I'm Embiid, and I poached Paul George away from the Clippers. And what a super team, yeah. I mean, yeah. I know what I'm doing when I title a video a certain way. I know who's gonna I know who's gonna get angry when seeing that title. Oh my God. It's both of them losers. Maxi, I'm sorry. You had to be dragged into this, bro. I apologize on behalf of everybody that is a Maxi supporter. I apologize because I don't want to drag you into this, but you're part of this mess. You're part of the big three. This is a big three. And unfortunately, Maxi, you teamed up with a Cameroonian that loves to just drink Shirley Temples for some reason. This guy, he drinks it by the pitcher. And you also teamed up with a serial podcaster that seems to be, I seen some stats recently on Twitter that this insane stat for Sixers fans. Since joining the Sixers, Paul George has uploaded more podcast clips to YouTube. 228 than field goals made. Yes, this is a real statistic. Yo! Oh my gosh, bro. But I gotta give it to this dude. He found the sucker. He found a bigger sucker than the Clippers. When many ask the question such as, why do teams want Paul George's services? Why? Who wants this dude? Who thinks he's worthy of even a max, even close to a $30 million contract? And shout out Swish Out, bro. I saw his video today, and that's really what got me to want to talk about this, because these dudes, he perfectly outlined how a guy like DeMar, who's making way less than Paul George, is still a more effective player now. I love giving DeMar a lot of shit for just being a playoff dropper, an all-time playoff dropper, but he's one of the more consistent players that we've had over the last decade or so, and I'm glad Swish Out illustrated that point, because it just goes to show, the value of having a guy as consistent as DeRozan, as opposed to a guy that's inconsistent, rather, doesn't show up when it matters. And Paul George, as a Raptors fan, I enjoyed how DeRozan got the better of Paul George in 2016. Oh, it was so beautiful to watch. But I won't pretend like I'm not a criticizer of DeMar DeRozan myself for all the failures that he's obviously committed in the playoffs. So this is really a way of, apologizing, quote unquote, to DeMar, because we do take him for granted in a way, how consistent he is in the regular season, right? That his playoff drop, right? It shouldn't take away from how consistent he is compared to a Paul, Clifton, Anthony, George. Yeah, he's moved around the league. He's been to 4 teams now, this 4th being the Sacramento Kings. He's still putting up some numbers, even though he's not the same player he was in his prime years. But one thing we don't mention enough is Paul George also being in 4 different teams now. Let's just be honest with ourselves. He doesn't have a home anywhere in the league, contrary to the DeRozan. Right? DeRozan still has more respect amongst Raptors fans than Paul George does in Indiana. Let's be honest, DeRozan is still respected in Chicago despite things not working out with them. And let's be honest, bro, DeRozan in San Antonio and so far in Sacramento, I don't think many people care too much to criticize the guy. Unlike Paul George, who has haters in OKC, has haters in LA now, and he's gonna have haters in Philly because he sucks. Oh, and not to mention that he has a player option where he's getting paid upwards of $56 million at the age of 37 years old. Oh, wow. Look away, folks. It's Paul George's box score stats over the last 5 games that he's played. 2 points, 14, 12, 14, 9 points. Swishout mentioned that he's had more games scoring under 10 points than he's had scoring over 30 points. The guy that Paul George is replacing is obviously 2 years younger than him and making, let's see how much here, less money throughout the duration of his contract combined than Paul George is making in his last year of his contract. And his contract ends before Paul George's current age. That's tough. That's tough. Look, I'm not gonna lie. I don't got much else to say. I've spoken more about Paul George than I have Joel Embiid. That's because I already made a 5-hour video talking about the dude and how, you know, he is one of the most unlikeliest, most polarizing superstars we've seen recently in the history of the NBA. But I think there's a lot more to Embiid that I've said in that video that I don't need to repeat myself here. So I hope you guys enjoy that video. If you haven't checked it out, please do. It'll help me. It'll help everybody involved. And I'm telling you what, you're going to have a good laugh watching that video too.